Hello everyone, my name is Demetrius McBride and welcome back to Civics in Columbus, from City Hall to Capitol Hill, where we break down how government works so that you can better understand your role in it. So far in this series, we focused on local government, how decisions are made right here in Columbus, Georgia. But here's the reality. Many of the policies that impact your daily life, education, healthcare, infrastructure, even funding for our local governments are decided at the state level. And that work happens under the Golden Dome in Atlanta, Georgia. So today we're shifting gears a little bit, going into third, coming out of neutral. In this episode, we're breaking down the Georgia General Assembly, who they are, how they operate, and how laws are actually made in our state. The great state of Georgia, the number one state to do business in. Let's get started. Before we get into the details, let's start with the foundation, how the legislature is structured. Georgia's legislature is what we call a bicameral, meaning it has two chambers, the House of Representatives and the State Senate. This structure has been in place since the 1700s and mirrors the structure of the U.S. Congress. Both chambers meet at the state capitol in Atlanta, and together they make the laws that govern the entire state of Georgia. But while they work together, each chamber has its own role, leadership, and responsibilities. So let's break them down. We'll start with the chamber that is closest to the people in terms of representation, the House of Representatives. The Georgia House of Representatives has 180 members, each representing a district across the state. Because there are more members, House districts are smaller, meaning representatives are typically closer to the communities they serve. The House is led by the Speaker of the House, who is one of the most powerful figures in state government. The Speaker controls which bills are heard, if you can even get that law to your state legislature to get it on to be voted on. That goes to the Speaker of the House. Who serves on committees, who's on the budget committee, who's on the education committee, who's on environmental committee, and how legislation moves through the chambers. Now here's something most people do not realize. The real work of legislature doesn't happen on the floor. It happens in those committees. Those committee meetings are where things really get done at. The House has over 30 standing committees where bills are debated, amended, and either move forward or quietly die before they even get a chance to be voted on. To serve in the House, you must be at least 21 years old, live in your district for at least 1 year, and be a Georgia resident for at least 2 years. Now that we've covered the House, let's move to the other side of that legislature, the State Senate. The Georgia State Senate has 56 members, far fewer than that 180 we just talked about in the House. Those members represent larger districts across the state of Georgia. Fewer members means each senator represents more people and often has a broader regional influence. The Senate is led by the lieutenant governor, who is elected statewide, not by the Senate itself. That is important because it connects the executive branch directly to the legislative process. Like the House, the Senate also operates heavily through committees, reviewing legislation, holding hearings, and shaping bills before they reach the floor. But the Senate has a unique responsibility. They confirm appointments made by the governor, especially to boards and commissions across states. To serve in the Senate, you must be at least 25 years old, be a U.S. citizen, and live in Georgia for at least 2 years. So now that we understand who is in the room, the next question is simple. How does a bill actually become law? The Georgia General Assembly meets once a year starting the second Monday in January. But here's the catch. There are only allowed 40 legislative days to complete their work, not 40 calendar days, 40 working legislative days. That creates urgency. Decisions have to be made quickly. And here's how that process works. 1. A bill is introduced either in the House or the Senate. Next, it gets assigned to a committee. Remember, we said a lot of that work gets done in those committee meetings. The committee then reviews, debates, and they may even amend that bill. Number 4, if it passes, it goes to the full chamber for a vote. Then it moves to the other chamber and goes through the same exact process. So if it starts in the House, it goes through those steps, then goes to the Senate, and vice versa if it starts in the Senate. Now here's where it gets real. Both chambers, not both B-O-F-F, but B-O-T-H, both chambers must pass the exact same version of the bill. So if it is amended in one chamber, it must go back through the process in the other chamber. If they don't, a conference committee is formed to work out the differences. And once both sides agree, it goes to the governor to be signed into law. One key rule to know: budget and tax-related bills must start in the House. If it's about that dollar, if it's about that YOLA, if it's about that cheddar, that green, that money, it must start in the House. And if the legislature wants to amend the state constitution, that requires a 2/3 vote in both chambers. Now, let's talk about where the legislature holds its greatest power, money, and oversight. At the end of the day, the most important job of the General Assembly is simple: passing the state budget. Because the budget determines what gets funded, what gets prioritized, and what gets left behind. This includes funding for, but not limited to, public schools, transportation, high-speed rail, anybody? Healthcare systems, Medicaid expansion, anybody? And public safety. But their role does not stop there. The legislature also redraws district lines every 10 years after the census, reviews and shapes statewide policy, and through the Senate confirm key appointments. This is not just policy making, this is power over direction. Now here's the part most people overlook, but it might be the most important part of the entire episode: your role in all this. The state legislature is not some distant system that you and I cannot access. It's right there in Atlanta. For me, coming from Columbus, it's about an hour and a half away. If you're coming from Savannah or from Rome, Georgia, or from Augusta, it might be a little farther. However, we have a part to play in this system. It is one of the most accessible levels of government if you choose to engage. Here's what that looks like. Know who your state rep and state senator are. Knowledge is power. Begin with what you know. Follow legislation that impacts your community. If it's coming to your county, see if it's coming to your district. Watch committee hearings. And most importantly, communicate with your elected officials. And if they're not communicating back with you, we can vote them out. Call them, email them, show up. Because here's the truth: if you're not engaged, decisions are still going to be made, just without your voice in the room. If you don't have a seat at the table, they say pull up a chair. If you don't have a seat at the table, somebody say bring your own table. However it has to be done, wherever you see fit legally, make your voice known. In closing, let's bring it all together. In this episode, we broke down the Georgia General Assembly, the House, the Senate, how laws are made, and how decisions that impact your daily life take shape at the state level. Here are the key takeaways. State government drives policy, local government implements it, and citizens influence both. You and I, we influence both. If you want to understand how real change happens, this is where you pay attention. In our next episode, we'll continue to build on this foundation so you can better understand how to navigate the influence the system effectively. Until next time, stay engaged, stay encouraged, and most importantly, stay informed. Demetrius McBride signing out. Peace.